All right, so we're gonna figure out the bearing clearances. I think this is a video that Chase wanted. So, got our trusty handy dandy spec sheet here. So we'll measure all the mains. $32, let's see. So the mains are 2 and 238.5. I've already measured them all. A couple of times. Because this is like the third take. And then you measure the rods. And Dwayne, the guy that did my cranks, he always made them just absolutely perfect. This was one of the last cranks he did before he retired. So now we got to get our crank grinder up and running, which will be kind of an interesting thing. We're waiting on some parts for it. All of our rod journals are 2 and 1, 11, 12, 13, 5. So we got those measured. So then you go through and you measure all your bearings. This anvil mic picks up on that radius right there and then the flat. So when you put the bearing in there, it grabs just the thickness of the bearing. And I've measured all these, but you go through and measure all of them. So we've got our crank, we've got our bearing thicknesses, the bore in the block, where the mains sit, and then the rods. We inspected the rods in the last video segment that I'm going to slap at the beginning of this. So we've got all of our numbers. So on our mains, the main bore in the block is where we start. So the main bore in the block is 2.4415. And then on our main bearings, we subtract from the main bore 0.101, which is one of our bearing halves. And then we subtract the other bearing half. So we've got our bearings in there. So we've got our bore and our bearings. And so the dimensions 2 and 239.5. And our crank, if we subtract our crank journal from it, 2.238.5, we wind up with 1 thou bearing clearance. So we write that number down just for the hell of it. I got a spec sheet that I fill out after I get all the math on this sheet, chicken scratches, and then I sit down at the computer and make the pretty sheet for the customer. And then on our rod clearances, we do our rod journal is, go to our connecting rod here, 2.239.8 minus 0.062 minus 0.062. So that's our bearings, minus 2.1136 equals, I fat fingered something there. All right, so our housing bore minus so there's our bearings minus 2/1000 on the rods. Well, 2/1000 and 2/10, which 2/10 ain't gonna make a difference. So now we'll give everything a bath. Wipe the block down with brake cleaner. Wipe all the bearings down, and get some cam bearings in it, and we'll get the bottom end going together. But as far as pre-assembly inspection, that's all there is to it.